Welcome to Lesson 2 of Module 6, Decisions Between Morality and Profit. In this part of the EntreAdu project, we continue to explore ethical and sustainable thinking, this time focusing on how entrepreneurs and businesses navigate tough choices where values and profits may be in conflict. Ethical decision-making is the process of evaluating and choosing among alternatives in a manner consistent with ethical principles. In business, this means not only asking what can we do, but also what should we do, weighing both the outcomes and the values involved. When it comes to ethical decision-making, there are several key philosophical approaches, each offering a different way to think about what's right and wrong. First, the utilitarian approach focuses on outcomes. A decision is ethical if it brings the greatest good to the greatest number of people. Next, the rights approach emphasizes individual freedoms. An action is ethical if it respects basic rights like privacy and autonomy. The fairness or justice approach is all about equal treatment. Decisions should be made fairly and without bias. Virtue ethics shifts the focus to character. It asks, what would a good person do? Highlighting traits like honesty, courage, and integrity. The duty-based, or deontological approach, says we should follow moral rules no matter the outcome. Doing what's right is about upholding duties and principles. And finally, social contract theory suggests that ethical behavior comes from agreements we make as members of society, trading some freedoms for structure, safety, and mutual benefit. Each of these approaches helps us understand ethics from a different angle, and together, they provide a strong foundation for thoughtful decision-making. Now, let's look at ethical dilemmas, situations where moral principles come into conflict, and the right choice isn't always clear. These dilemmas challenge us to balance competing priorities and reflect on our values. For example, a conflict of interest. Should a manager choose a family member's company or stay objective? Bribery. Accepting a gift to secure a deal or rejecting it and risking the business. Customer privacy versus profit. Sell data for revenue or protect privacy. Product safety versus cost savings. Use cheaper materials, or keep customers safe. Employee well-being versus profitability. Cut benefits to save money, or support staff. Whistleblowing. Report wrongdoing and risk backlash, or stay silent. Diversity versus merit. Promote for targets, or stick to merit alone. And environment versus growth. Protect the planet, or focus on profit. Each case demands thoughtful, ethical decision-making, beyond just rules or short-term gains. Ethical decisions often happen in complex situations where the right answer isn't always clear. That's where the three-step model for ethical decision-making can help. Step 1. Recognize and define the ethical issue. Look beyond profits. Does this decision affect people, values, or long-term outcomes? For example, choosing a supplier with questionable labor practices isn't just a business choice, it's an ethical one. Step 2. Evaluate alternatives using ethical principles. Ask, what are the consequences? Is it fair? Does it respect rights? Think through each option carefully, and consider what would happen if your choice were made public. Step 3. Make a decision and act with integrity. Choose the path that aligns with your values, and follow through transparently and consistently. By using this model, you can make decisions that feel right in the moment, and stand the test of time. When making business decisions, it's easy to focus just on profit. But every choice affects people, communities, and the environment. And that's why the stakeholder approach matters. A stakeholder is anyone impacted by a business's actions: employees, customers, suppliers, investors, local communities, even future generations. This approach reminds us to consider the well-being of all these groups, not just shareholders. For example, relocating a factory might save money. But what about local workers, families, or how customers view the brand? Ethical entrepreneurs think beyond short-term gains. They aim to build trust and create long-term value through transparent and responsible decisions. In the end, businesses that put stakeholders first earn loyalty, strengthen their reputation, and build resilience for the future. In business, there's often a tension between doing what's profitable and doing what's ethical. Ethical choices may not always boost short-term profits, but they build long-term trust, loyalty, and a stronger, more sustainable brand. So how can businesses find that balance? First, develop a clear code of ethics. It gives employees and leaders a shared framework for making the right decisions. Second, train employees in ethical decision-making. When people know how to spot dilemmas and respond, they're more likely to act with integrity, even when it's tough. Third, integrate sustainability goals into your strategy. Set real targets, like cutting emissions or improving working conditions, not just for compliance, but for real impact. And finally, review your practices regularly. Audit suppliers, partnerships, and policies to make sure your actions match your values. In short, balancing profit and ethics isn't easy, but it's the key to building a business that lasts. Let's explore 2 brief case studies that highlight common ethical challenges in business, where values, responsibility, and profit meet. Entrepreneurs must carefully weigh the consequences of their decisions. Case Study 1. A company collects customer data for marketing. How can they use it ethically? Data is powerful but requires responsibility. The company must balance sales goals with respecting customer privacy. Transparency, informed consent, and data protection build trust instead of exploiting information. Case Study 2. A clothing brand considers outsourcing to a cheaper factory with poor wages and safety. This dilemma pits cost-cutting against ethical responsibility. Is saving money worth supporting unsafe labor conditions? Ethical choices consider both profit and the human impact. Responsible sourcing protects workers and strengthens brand credibility. These examples show that ethical business isn't about easy answers. It's about asking the right questions and acting with integrity. In summary, ethical dilemmas are a common part of business life. Philosophical frameworks and practical decision-making tools help navigate these situations wisely. When companies embed ethics into their strategy, they foster trust, sustainability, and long-term success. Ethics isn't just about avoiding problems, it's about building something better. Thank you for your attention. This lesson is part of the EntreAdu project, supporting young entrepreneurs with migrant backgrounds through gamified, inclusive learning. Remember, ethical thinking is not a limitation, it's a strength that drives meaningful and lasting impact. Before moving on, please complete the following 5 questions to test your understanding of the concepts we've covered. See you in the next lesson.